Here are 5 things they don't tell you about living in Colombia coming from a Medellin perspective. Now, the first thing is that you cannot return items, or you usually can't return items that you bought in a shop, even if you have the receipt and have done everything properly. Unlike in the UK and the US, in other countries in Europe, you cannot do this. It is usually down to the store's discretion, and I have first-hand experience. Actually, last week I bought a lens cleaner for my camera, and I realized when I got home after buying it that it wasn't the thing I needed, and so I went back to the shop in the mall, in Santa Fe Mall. It wasn't like I was doing anything dodgy or buying from a non-reputable shop. And yeah, they basically said to me, no returns under any circumstances. I'm sorry. They wouldn't even let me get any store credit. I had the receipt, had all the details on, and they basically just said no. I was really surprised. I checked it all with ChatGPT and online, and it was correct. They said, look, stores don't have to issue a refund if they don't want to. It's normally down to their own policy, and by law, companies don't have to give you returns. And lots of other foreigners in Colombia have been surprised, just like how I was, because where I'm from in the UK, you can easily return products, no problem. As long as you go into the shop, as long as you have the receipt, as long as the product isn't faulty, it's not damaged, it hasn't been used, nothing like that, you can easily return things, and normally the process is very straightforward. Whereas in Colombia, no. When you buy the product and you part ways with your hard-earned pesitos, you basically wave goodbye the right to return the product. Now, what's really interesting is they make actually a big deal about receipts in Colombia. They'll always ask you, do you want the factura electrónica, which is the electronic receipt, or do you want the physical receipt? It has lots of information on it. The receipts here are big. They have like tens and tens of pieces of information on that receipt. And the irony is, of course, that receipt is basically useless, because even if the product is faulty and you take it back to the shop is not legally required to give you a refund, even if you had the receipt. And so I found that incredibly frustrating. I kind of said to the people in the shop, you know, what's the point of me having this receipt? You gave me the receipt. I've kept it. It's in good condition. The box is in condition. The product is exactly the same as I purchased it. And they basically just shrugged their shoulders and said, sorry, not sorry. You can't return the product. So that's the first unusual thing they don't tell you. And unless you are lucky enough to stumble across this video, you will probably learn this firsthand. And so I hope if this has happened to you, it's for a small purchase, not a big one. Now, the second thing, dinner isn't really a thing in Colombia. Now, this might just be a Medellin thing. I'm not sure. You guys let me know in the comments if other cities do it differently or other parts in Colombia do it differently. But here, people tend to have a big breakfast. They tend to have a big lunch, maybe a late lunch, and they won't really tend to have much for dinner. They might have an arepa with some chicken on it. Maybe they might just even have an ice cream. Lots of people just walk around at 5, 6, 7 p.m. having an ice cream. And yeah, unlike in the UK, people just don't tend to have that big sit-down family dinner with members of their family. It's not really a thing here. People tend to do it during the day, for breakfast, for lunch, especially during the week. And so yeah, if you have come from a Western country and you're used to having big kind of dinners with family and friends, get used to kind of not having that so much in Colombia, because culturally, in my experience, it's not really a big thing. Now, that's during the week. On the weekend, people will tend to have a late lunch with family, that kind of thing. I guess like the English version of like a Sunday lunch, but they definitely won't be having a big dinner. Maybe unless it's a special occasion. Maybe they're going out for a party at someone's birthday. In that kind of sense, they might have a late dinner. But more often than not, Colombians are not big kind of dinner people. So that's just something to bear in mind if you are in Colombia. Okay, now the third point. I might get a little bit of stick on this in the comments, but overall, Colombians are terrible drivers. A lot of them pay little to no attention to local traffic laws that run through red lights. They will not use their indicators. It's around a 50% chance whether the car, the motor, or the bus will be using their indicators. And this makes it extremely important when you are a pedestrian or even driving as well, as a foreigner, that you are paying attention to your surroundings. Because if you are crossing a road, or maybe there's a turn, or you need to kind of change direction, there is a 50% chance that the oncoming car is just going to swerve into you without any warning. So you have to be really careful about that. You have to have your wits about you. I've had a couple of kind of near misses, I guess you could say, where I've just been walking along. I've assumed the car isn't going to turn left where I'm walking, for example, and I assumed it's just going to carry on straight because they weren't indicating, and the car just suddenly last minute just like swerves to the left. I'm assuming they always had the intention to do this. But yeah, overall, Colombians do not use their indicators, so just be careful of that. And they're not great drivers. People run red lights all the time. So if you are waiting to cross a road and it is a red light, just double, triple check to make sure you're not going to get run over by a motor or a bus or just a car going along the road. And also, even though it is illegal, people tend to drive on their phone here a lot. They'll be talking on their phone with their phone held up to their ear. They'll be texting. They'll be on WhatsApp. So that's just also something to bear in mind as well. People won't be paying attention to the road as much as they do in the UK, in the US, in Europe. And so when you are a pedestrian, just be super careful that you are paying attention to your surroundings, okay? And also another crazy part on that is it's not that common to use seatbelts here. In Medellin, I think people tend to use the seatbelts, but definitely in the coast, people don't. So when you think about that, that is absolutely crazy. So driving is more dangerous here. People are more likely to be on their their phone while they're driving along. People do not obey local traffic laws. And then to top that all off, they are also not wearing their seatbelt. And maybe people in Colombia wonder why they have so many road traffic accidents. It's just basically a cocktail of danger. And so yeah, you kind of have to experience that firsthand when you move to Colombia. When you come here on holiday, it's not really something that you can learn from another YouTube video, unless of course you stumbled across my channel, in which case like, comment and subscribe if you can. It really helps me out. Now the fourth point, Colombia overall is a very classist society. Now I think every country has their own version of a classist society. We have it in the UK, I'm sure there's the same in the US, but I think it is turbocharged in Colombia because of the estrato system, whereby neighborhoods and areas of a city are based on kind of income level. You have like estrato uno, which is the poorest, and you have estrato seis, which is the richest. And people overall, don't kill me in the comments here, tend to be quite elitist and snobbery about their strato level. They'll ask people, oh, where do you live? What strato are you in? To kind of like gauge whether that person is worth their time or not. And some of you Rolos who are watching this can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have heard that the Rolos in Bogota are some of the most classist people, I guess. In Medellin, I'm coming from a tourist, kind of foreigner perspective, so I don't really have too much experience of that. All I know from speaking to people is they have an extremely classist society here. And for example, people will tend to date within their estrato or maybe one or two levels up or down. You won't get an estrato seis woman dating an estrato uno man, for example. But I guess you could argue that's exactly the same in London. It would be unusual for a hedge fund manager who lives in Kensington to be dating a woman from Peckham, for example. Again, don't hate on me for the example there, but you kind of get what I mean. I think every city and country has their own version of a kind of a class system, but I have heard it is quite bad in Colombia. So they have a class system here. People tend to be quite snobbery about it. And yeah, just bear that in mind. The last unusual thing is that it is hit and miss whether you can pay for things online with your international card. I'll give you a really quick example for this. So one of the biggest internet providers and kind of telephone providers here, Claro. If you have a phone contract, if you have internet in your apartment or your house, whatever, and you're not doing it through Airbnb, you basically need to get broadband and your telephone set up. And just like in a developed country, you want to be able to pay for it automatically online. So they have an app you can download, you fill out your payment details. It says, you know, you can pay automatically your bill every month. It's not even that much. So yeah, you put your credit card details in, obviously international, because most foreigners do not have a Bank Colombia account. And this is first-hand experience, by the way. So you put your card details in, international, it's all good, blah, 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 blah. They don't take the payment, and then suddenly one day you realize your internet's cut off and you're like, oh, that's weird. I set up the automatic payment. Why haven't they taken it? So you go back onto the app and it says in small print, just under some of the details, oh, by the way, we don't accept international credit cards. And it's like, well, why did you let me upload it to the system then? And I think this is a classic. Some things to do, usually to do with like properties, things like that, you just can't pay for online with the international card. And so you'll either need to pay in cash or you'll need to go into the shop and pay by card in person, which is a real faff. Imagine every month having to go to the Claro shop to pay your phone bill, to pay for your internet. It's really not great. And so hopefully soon I'll have my own Bank Colombia account so I can pay for that automatically. But just be prepared as a foreigner living in Colombia that you will not be able to pay for absolutely everything automatically online. And that is just a part and parcel of living here. It's a little bit of faffy, yes. It's kind of one of the annoying things that you have to kind of deal with and work around with. Maybe you have a Colombian friend, someone you can trust to pay it for you, and you just give them cash, or you do a bank transfer, something like that. But just be prepared, basically. Normal things that are easy to do in your home country, like paying a bill, like paying for your internet, like paying for your building's administration, for example, which is like the HOA if you own your own property. Things like this just can be difficult in Colombia, and that is just part and parcel of living here as a foreigner, because obviously even though it's developing, it's growing, the country is doing well at the moment, it's still kind of playing catch up in terms of technology, infrastructure, compared to countries like the UK and the US. So that's just something to bear in mind. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.